Hello everyone. Got a few dirty jokes for you today. So a woman visits the gynecologist for a routine checkup. She places her feet in the stirrups and the doctor begins his examination. Suddenly, he exclaims, "Wow, you got a very deep cave down there. I have never seen anything like it before." The woman retorts, "You don't have to tell me twice." The doctor, with a sly grin, replies, "I didn't." So the Smiths were unable to conceive children and decided to use a surrogate father to start their family. On the day the proxy father was to arrive, Mr. Smith kissed his wife goodbye and said, "Well, I'm off now. The man should be here soon." Not half an hour later, by pure coincidence, a door-to-door baby photographer happened to ring the doorbell, hoping to make a sale. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. "I've come to—" "Oh, no need to explain," Mrs. Smith cut in, embarrassed. "I've been expecting you." "Have you really?" said the photographer. "Well, that's good. Did you know babies are my specialty?" "Well, that's what my husband and I had hoped." "Please, come in and have a seat." After a moment, she asked, blushing, "Well, where do we start?" "Leave everything to me," the photographer said. "I usually try 2 in the bathtub, 1 on the couch, and perhaps a couple on the bed. And sometimes the living room floor is fun. You can really spread out there." Bathtub, living room floor? No wonder it didn't work out for Harry and me. "Well, miss, none of us can guarantee a good one every time," the photographer said. "But if we try several different positions and I shoot from 6 or 7 angles, I'm sure you'll be pleased with the results." "My, that's a lot," gasped Mrs. Smith. "Miss, in my line of work, a man has to take his time," the photographer said. "I'd love to be in and out in 5 minutes, but I'm sure you'd be disappointed with that." "Don't I know it?" said Mrs. Smith quietly. The photographer opened his briefcase and pulled out a portfolio of his baby pictures. "This was done on the top of a bus," he said. "Oh my God," Mrs. Smith exclaimed, grasping at her throat. And these twins turned out exceptionally well when you consider their mother was so difficult to work with. "She was difficult?" asked Mrs. Smith. "Yes, I'm afraid so. I finally had to take her to the park to get the job done right. People were crowding around 4 and 5 deep to get a good look." 4 and 5 deep, said Mrs. Smith, her eyes wide with amazement. "Yes," the photographer replied, "and for more than 3 hours, too. The mother was constantly squealing and yelling. I could hardly concentrate, and when darkness approached, I had to rush my shots. Finally, when the squirrels began nibbling on my equipment, I just had to pack it all in." Mrs. Smith leaned forward. "Do you mean they actually chewed on your equipment?" "It's true," the photographer said. "Well, if you're ready, I'll set up my tripod and we can get to work right away." "A tripod?" asked Mrs. Smith. "Oh yes, I need to use a tripod to rest my Canon on. It's much too big to be held in the hand very long." So a police officer was on patrol at night and saw 2 men fighting in the middle of the street. He flashed his police lights, hopped out the car and pulled the 2 men apart. He cuffed them both and sat them apart from each other on the sidewalk. "Explain what is going on here," the policeman asked the first man. "Well," the first man sighed. "It all started a few nights ago when I thought my girlfriend was cheating on me. I came around to her place to surprise her and found her watching a movie with 2 suspiciously empty pizza boxes next to her. She said she was just hungry, but who the hell orders 2 large pizzas to themselves?" "A valid point," the policeman nodded, agreeing. "Anyway, the The first man continued, I decided to stake out her house. So I'm waiting here out in the street, watching to see if anyone goes into that pink house on the other side of the road. I have my mate at the pizza shop deliver me a pizza while I wait. Everything's quiet, and I'm just about to start eating my pizza, until I see that bastard over there come creeping around the side of the house. That man over there? The policeman asked. Yes, so naturally, I confronted him, and he denied seeing my girl. Next thing you know, we're in the middle of a brawl, and then you arrive. The policeman thought for a moment, then undid the cuffs. Here's the deal. You give me your pizza, and I'll let you drive away with a warning. The first man nodded grumpily, hopped in his car, and drove off. The policeman placed the pizza in his car, and then walked over to the second man. That guy says you were cheating on his girlfriend, the policeman stated. How dare he insult my honor like that? The second man roared. So what were you doing? The policeman asked. Well, trying to rob the place, the second man mumbled, but I couldn't get in. That's hardly any better, the policeman replied. The windows were locked up tight, so I decided to give up. Next thing I know, some guy is screaming at me, saying I'm having a thing with his girl. We ended up in a fight. Then you turn up. Empty your pockets, the policeman said. The second man pulled out a pair of diamond earrings from another house he had robbed. I'll take those, the policeman said, but because I'm in a good mood, I'll let you go. The second man couldn't believe his luck. He skipped away down the street. Suddenly, the lights at the front of the pink house turned on. A woman came marching out. What the hell is going on out here? The policeman turned around and said, Nothing, babe. I've got you a pizza and some new earrings. So one weekend, a husband is in the bathroom shaving when the local kid Bubba he hired to mow his lawn comes in to pee. The husband slyly looks over and is shocked at how immensely endowed Bubba is. He can't help himself and asks Bubba what his secret is. Well, says Bubba, I just tie a string around it and attach a half-pound weight. It's a little painful, but you should see results in a few weeks. The husband thanked him and began the treatment. After 2 weeks, he met Bubba, who asked him if there was any progress, to which he replied, well, size is same, but the good news, it's already black. So, a young deckhand sees a pirate ship approaching from the port side. He rushes to the captain and tells him. The captain says, I need you to go to my cabin and get my red shirt. The deckhand is a bit confused. He asks, Your red shirt, sir? The captain replies, Yes. If I get hit by enemy gunfire, I do not want my men to see me bleeding and give up the fight. The deckhand rushes to the captain's cabin and gets his red shirt. The whole time, he is thinking how brave his captain is, since he is worried about the men giving up the fight if he gets hit by enemy gunfire, and not even concerned about his own life. On his way back, the deckhand notices another pirate ship approaching from the starboard side. When he gets to the captain, he gives him the red shirt and says, Sir, I regret to inform you, there is another pirate ship approaching from our starboard side. The captain says, I need you to go to my cabin and get my brown pants. So, South African Dutchman van der Merwe had never been out of South Africa. His first overseas trip was a holiday in Australia. He decided to spend an afternoon visiting Bondi Beach. As he sat on the beach, looking out to sea, he saw a long line of black dots out in the water and said to an Aussie, who was sitting close by, What are all those little black things out there? They're boys, said the Aussie. Boys, replied van der Merwe. What are they doing out there? Holding up the shark net, the Aussie told him. What a great country, said Vander Merwe, deeply impressed. We'd never get away with that at home. Walking into the bar, Rick said to Charlie, the bartender, Pour me a stiff one. Just had another fight with the little woman. Oh, yeah? Said Charlie. And how did this one end? When it was over, Rick replied, she came to me on her hands and knees. Really? Now that's a switch. What did she say? She said, come out from under the bed, you chicken.